Welcome to Nuanced Beauty. This podcast is intended to be a spot where my husband Bill and I will capture some complex thoughts and challenge us to hold to our opinions loosely so that we can see the beauty in others and the beauty in ourselves. I want to challenge us to dive deeper into those everyday topics and those sticky topics that we might shy away from, or we might bulldoze over others with our opinions. Because I think there's wisdom in this idea that if we all thought exactly the same, there would be no need for anyone else. So let's have a conversation and let's get nuanced. Hey guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty.
Hey everybody. So we just got back from a 5-day trip to New York to visit some friends and visit some places that were fundamental to us. That's where we met, not far outside of New York City, and we came back tired and stressed, and we thought, wow, this is a such fertile ground. Traveling with young kids is such fertile ground to discuss nuanced beauty, because there is both nuance and beauty. The beauty being that, we like our kids.
We love our kids.
We love our
We love our
kids.
kids very much.
And sometimes they do cute things. And I was actually struggling to think of an example for this. And Christina says, oh, there was this one thing.
Yeah. One morning, so they had to share a bedroom to sleep, and Aaron's in the pack and play. Zeke is in the bed in the room, and
Zeke got a queen size bed to himself while we slept on the floor
with a queen foam mattress. But Zeke, well, I heard them, so I go in there, and Zeke's like, Aaron is so kind. I told him, because he was talking and he woke up, and I said, Aaron, can you just be quiet so I can sleep? And Aaron, rapidly nodded his head up and down, which is a thing that he's been doing. He does a lot of head shakes for no and big, emphatic head nods for yes. So he nodded emphatically, and then he just started babbling and wasn't too loud. So it was
quiet babbles.
Super cute. I came in there and he was kind of just like or no, that's what it was. Zeke asked if he would be quiet, but he said, if I give you your bottle, will you be quiet so I can sleep some more? And he nodded. So he finished his bottle and wasn't as loud, and then I got in there and shared that lovely story with me.
And I talked to Zeke about that afterwards when we got home. He's like, I didn't like sharing a room with baby that much because when he woke up, it woke me up. But I could tell Aaron loved sharing a room with his big brother. Like, he'd wake up and he was just so excited.
It was like, blah, blah, blah.
But that kid was just so high energy the whole time.
Yeah, so high energy. And thank goodness we were staying with a family that actually took care of Zeke since a very young age. She's practically grandma, and Tim is grandpa in a way, and we're calling them for help. We kind of go to them for just info about raising kids.
Right. We didn't have family
parenting
in Seattle where we were as we were raising our eldest.
So there could not be a more...
They very much adopted us into their family.
Yeah, and a more understanding couple to let us stay with them on a trip. And that was good. Chatting with them was good, and taking the boys to see our alma mater, that was a very cool moment.
Which brings us into the nuance, though, because aside from watching Moana at least 3 times a day while we were there, because the smoke came in while we were in New York, so we were a little bit trapped inside. Yeah, we saw our alma mater, and it was beautiful. I think I didn't see much of it because I was chasing 2 kids the entire time, and Zeke's shoes didn't fit, and Aaron was tired from having an early morning, and afterwards I realized, wow, we spent an hour there maybe, and I barely remember a moment of it because I was so caught up in the logistics of moving children from one place to the next.
Yeah.
And at the end of the trip, I'm like, wow, was I even there?
Yeah, it felt like surreal, kind of a dream, like, oh, this went really quickly. And I kind of like remember a little bit, but not a lot, and
Hmm.
exhausted. It's super exhausted. So, yeah, there was beauty. And then the rest of this is all about the nuance. We do not know if, like, so we have some friends who travel a lot more with kids. And I feel like everybody has that friend who has traveled a lot with a kid. And there's all these like tips and tricks in that. But I guess we just wonder how. Like, how do they do
And
it
why?
and why? And like, oh my gosh, it is just such an
Like, I
effort.
feel like we handle it with professionalism and efficiency. We pack correctly. We
And we
manage the
try to
logistics
be
of,
gracious, and it's very hard, and we're short, like stressed and
yeah,
short
like we
tempered
we
and
successfully get children from place to place, and
mhm.
they get fed and bathed and put back to bed
Uh-huh.
in an inconvenient place to do all of those things, and then we get home.
Yeah. But like I don't know, we have friends. So it's just like, how do you do this so
Well,
well, or do you not do
I'm
it well,
actually
and we just like people just have a different level of keeping composure or saving appearance, or maybe a level of discretion, like not wanting to overwhelm a person with the tedious monotony of like how hard it is to travel with kids.
Mhm.
Like maybe it's all of the above.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit more fascinated by the question of why, because I think that might inform all the rest of it. Like, why do you travel with kids? And I say that exasperated, like, oh, why do we do this? But I think for a lot of people, it's traditional.
Mm,
It's something they did growing up, and it's something that's important for them
and they
to.
maybe remember those
They
trips at
remember it,
least briefly.
and so like, oh, I want my children to have those sorts of experiences, and so in a way, I find that whole thought process frustrating, because I can see that leading to, I as a parent, because I've been trapped by this. You will have a good time and you will like it because that's important to me that you have a good memory. So you better have a good memory.
Yeah, and like really, which
That
was almost what
a
happened at
little bit what
the.
happened at the Natural History Museum.
Yeah, it took a good hour to commute, bus and subway to get to the Museum of Natural
We went
History.
on the subway like 3 times and didn't get murdered. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah,
And if you
yeah,
watch the news, you wouldn't think that'd be possible.
possible, yeah. But it took like an hour to get there, and then we maybe spent an hour,
Not even.
maybe an
If
hour
you include the time it took to get through the line to get in,
to
it's
get in.
definitely
It
an
was
hour.
probably an hour. Yeah, and it's just, man, it's like one of those things, like kiddos' shoes did not fit great. And it's like, oh, if he had different shoes, but then like Bill pointed out that like even if he had different shoes, he would fixate on something that was
So
not lovely or convenient
we got
or
there, we ran inside, we got a picture with the blue whale. Everyone smiled for the picture, and then we got out. So if
uh-huh.
all you saw was our Instagram page, you think, wow, they had
They
such a
did
great trip.
okay. Yeah.
And that was not true
Well, and that's
at all.
where I was considering making this episode the title, Does a Picture Say a Thousand Words? Is it a thousand words? Is
It
that what it
is.
says?
Yeah.
And I was gonna go with the idea that, well, yeah, it says a thousand words, but it's missing like a million like grunts and groans that went behind getting that
Yeah.
picture.
And you and I, as children, did not have vacations.
No, not extensively. No, no, no.
Not,
Yeah.
and I lived in a vacation area technically. We didn't go places, so it's not important to me as a parent to like. Well, my parents took me to Disney, so I want to take them to Disney. So
Yeah.
for me, it is purely this logistical lift, and without the wanting to pass on that tradition. But I think for some people, it is a tradition,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Or camp like there, and that's where I
oh,
guess like
camping's even worse with kids. I don't know.
we camped when Zeke was 8 months old, but I'm thinking back to like one camping trip that I took with my dad. I was probably in second or third grade, and my brother was in no, I was in kindergarten probably, and my brother was in second grade, and we went camping for several days in the Rockies. Um, and I did a DC trip in middle school. And so I guess I have these faint memories, and I've seen a couple pictures, and I remember just a little bit like just snippets of memories because it was something out of the normal.
Hmm.
And of course, like DC was heavily influential into why I wanted to serve in the military at all and go that route. So like there's meaning, there's purpose, there's you can get stuff out of it.
Yeah, I think if you have a strong why, like there's a reason that we're doing this, that's a good and pure reason. Maybe your paradigm is different than
Yeah.
what I won't speak for you. What mine is when we do trips like this.
Yeah, for us, I mean, we've done my grandma's birthday like 6-ish
And
months
for
ago
as much as I
or 3 months
adore
ago.
your grandma and I love your family, that was still your grandma and your family. So I was still like, okay, I'm a support here.
Ah, yeah.
So Aaron actually got sick during that trip, so I spent most
Yeah.
of the time
Super sick.
trying to hold the kids together so Christina could enjoy this time.
Hmm.
So again, it was just doing all the things you already do as a parent in a less convenient place.
Yeah. And then
It was
this
awful.
trip was really for like this was for us and this was for the flights aren't that expensive and we haven't been back in 12 years.
Hmm.
So that was really the driver of like, let's get back here and like we'll show our kids a couple of things. And then of course the smoke was like another component of like, oh, well, we can't really go outside that much. Like we got to a couple playgrounds, did a really cool Staten Island's Children Museum.
Oh yeah, the
That
museum
was
was probably the
very
best part.
good. Like the kids just really loved that. It was a super great morning. Um, what was lame about the Museum of Natural History is when we got there, it was right at 10, so there was a long line. But when we left just an hour later,
No line
there
at
was
all.
not a line at all. So there's your tidbit of travel
Yeah, when
advice.
get a
Don't go at 10 a.m.
don't go when it opens.
Even though you have to
Uh,
buy your tickets in advance, like as if they're
hmm.
timing the entry.
Yeah, and my hope was threefold going to the academy again. It was uh, we're very close to Carol as a person. She knows us very well, and I wanted to show
Show
her this
and
thing that was
yeah,
influential to us. If you want to know why we are who we are, this is a
here's where
big
we went to
part of it.
college. Yeah.
And see all the young men and women in uniforms and the flag and the pageantry of it all, and
And the
uh,
small
the
campus that we would
small
run
small it
around.
was every bit as small as I remembered it.
Uh-huh.
But also Zeke is old enough that he'll remember this trip,
Yes.
and this could be something that influences him to do something in the service. And it was actually one of the cool things about this is maybe the more sad beauty of it is there's a lot of memorials around New York. So I had at least 5 different conversations about why is there this list of names. Well, this one's for 9/11,
Oh, yeah.
and talk about that. And this was one. This one's for World War
World War
II, and a
II.
couple different ones for World War II. So we got to have a kind of somber conversation about
Y-
that.
Yeah,
The
because he
Mariners
can
Chapel for
read.
yeah, because he can read, so he's
He's
reading.
reading the full like he wants to read everything he
Hmm.
sees. So he's reading the full like yeah, list that's
Yeah,
actually hard to read. Like it's probably a third or fourth grade reading level
yeah, we
what
keep
he was
bragging about that.
reading.
And I kind of I forget, even though it's in the name, that the chapel at Kings Point is dedicated to mariners who have died in the course of specifically World War II, but just in general, where you know. And so we got to have those kind of deep conversations. He's old enough that this could be something he thinks back on, and remembers, and influences his future. And
Mhm.
maybe not, but it could be.
Yeah.
But also just to sit and kind of have a moment to reflect about how this place shaped me
Yeah.
personally, because you're a much different person coming out of that place than you were coming into that place. And I got half of 2 of those things done. Zeke saw it, but he was a jerk the whole time.
Yeah.
We ran into an old friend while we were there, and I spent more time chatting with him. They're really showing Carol around, and I had zero time just to stop and breathe for a minute.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it felt like a lot of to-dos and yeah, logistics like you
mhm,
said. It was a lot of logistics.
gotta get those naps in.
Yeah,
Gotta get those naps in.
Aaron, our little guy, the toddler, is still the early afternoon right after lunch nap, and when it takes an hour to get from
Mhm.
Brooklyn to downtown or to wherever you're going, an hour each way, you're left with 1 to 2
So many
hours.
folks I work with talk about going to Disney like all the time, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yes.
That sounds awful.
It sounds hard.
And maybe they have kids that have fun doing things.
Or maybe they're fourth grade and up. Like
I don't
that's
know.
where it's like, are we just in like the
Are we in a
weird
bad spot?
spot? Or is it us? Is it
So
them?
what I think I really want uh, is to hear from somebody who has positive experiences traveling with children,
Yeah.
and to hear
A nice,
honestly, not the social media cute picture. We all have that picture,
uh-huh.
but hear an honest and heartfelt.
Like, what was good and what was hard? Like, tell me
Yeah.
the hard part too, so that we know that we're not the only ones with like,
Are we terrible parents? Do we have terrible kids? That's
no.
always the recursive question that I have. I know you don't, but I do it enough for both of us. Um, but also to hear that encouragement of
Yeah.
how what it could be, because right now for me it's still parenting in a less convenient place.
It's like, whoa, this is entirely so much effort.
It's
And
so
we,
not
we
worth
don't
it.
have a trip. We may have one overnighter, but then we don't have a trip until September.
Hmm.
So we've got another 3 months before we fly. And then our almost 2-year-old will be two. So he will have his own flight seat, which also kid can't wear headphones. So that's another,
Yeah,
ugh,
this kid is just the wrong age to fly because he's really too
he's
big to
too
sit in
big to
our
sit
lap,
still
but not quite big enough to wear headphones and just watch a
or
movie.
entertain. Yeah, like he wanted to touch, like wanted to jump from this to that to this to that to this to that nonstop. And thankfully it was only a 2-hour
Kick
flight.
the folks in front of us.
Yeah, kicking the seat. And then when you stop him from kicking the seat, he would then like giggle and want to kick the seat
Yeah,
more.
that's the fun part now. Now it's a game.
Threw a banana and hit someone's foot. Like,
Yeah,
goodness
but still
gracious.
better than you mentioned the camping trip we took for Zeke. I'm going to tell that story.
Uh-huh.
We our community group decided to do a group camping trip at a campground out on Vashon. Which if you're not
From the Seattle
from the
area,
Seattle
it's a
area, it's a
ferry
short
ride
ferry ride
and a
from
short
the
drive.
neighborhood we were in, and a short drive. Very nice, still kind of wooded area. And the campground was just kind of this big field that everybody, us and everybody else
With
who,
some fire pits and
uh,
that, and then some showers and like basic
yeah, yeah.
amenities.
The point is everybody's in a big field.
Yes.
Uh, People in our party, people outside of our party, and it got a lot colder than we expected it to.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to put Zeke, who was about 8 months old, down for the night
Yeah, at first
in
it
a
was
pack
too
and play.
hot. It
First,
was way too hot. And then it
oh, it
was
was
way too
killer,
cold.
and he didn't go to sleep, and he was just screaming and screaming for like an hour. He's just in there, and like one of those things, like okay, at some point you just put the kid down and he figures it out,
Uh-huh.
and he did not figure it out. And
Yeah.
we're all again people not with us in this field, and his screams are just echoing across the campground.
Uh-huh.
And I worked for the ferry system at the time, so I rode the ferry for free. So eventually, I'm like, I'm taking this kid home.
Like, I'm just gonna drive back to catch the last ferry back
I
home.
caught
I'll
the
see you guys at about 9
Yep,
a.m.
I caught the last ferry uh, back to our neighborhood. Put him down. He fell asleep in the car, of course. I almost should have
Mm-hmm.
just driven him around the neighborhood and come back. Uh, and that ferry hits three different ports, and I thought ours went. I was on the leg that just went straight home. So we went. The ferry got going. The ferry went transited for a while. I was still in the car, and then the ferry stopped and it stopped and it stopped and it stopped for kind of a while. I'm like, wait, I should be getting off right now. So I get out of the car and walk to the front of the ferry, and I come back and realize I don't have my keys. Did I just lock my sleeping child in the car on the ferry
Just
at
add that to
1
the
in the
mix.
morning?
Uh-huh.
So I just adding to it. Turns out I didn't lock the key was just on the seat, but I hadn't locked it. So just add that to it.
Yeah, and that
Uh,
kind of
it was just the
that goes into
worst.
the next part, is that like with the logistics and kids, you end up like traveling you is already like, oh, I'm forgetting things because I'm out of my normal routine.
Hmm.
But then it just seems like such a bigger deal when you're forgetting things with the kids in tow. Like
Hmm.
it elevates in a way that, like, if it were just me, like I could be like, oh, stupid me, like
Yeah,
whatever, and move on. But with,
we missed a flight. Great, I love airports. I'll sit and have some coffee and read a book. I
like,
actually
give
have
me the
no
next
problem with
flight.
that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I could sit here for 3-4 hours. I
Yeah.
cannot sit here for 3 or 4 hours with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old.
No.
So
Now we're pushing in the nap schedules.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So
But yeah, with that, that is our nuanced beauty recap of traveling with young kids. As you can tell, this feels more nuanced, less beauty, and at the same time, I think what my mission will be as we are doing interviews is I'm going to find one of those friends. Like, I have one friend in mind who does a lot of camping with their kiddos,
Hmm.
and I have another friend in mind who does a lot of driving trips with their kids. And so maybe I will try and get one of them on here and try to have a slightly more maybe encouraging conversation with maybe a little tips and tricks for traveling with young ones. And then hopefully get a little bit of the nuance out of them that, like, we're not alone. It is it is an endeavor,
Hmm.
because I think that's what we need.
Yeah, I would love it so much if we could find, even if someone doesn't want to sit down and have a full episode on this, just if we can stitch a 2 or 3 minute monologue from somebody who enjoys traveling to stitch to the end of this, saying
Uh-huh.
like, "You guys are so wrong,"
It's so great. We've done
or,
so many
or
things.
even just a yes, but.
Yes,
Um,
but yeah, totally.
so, calling all travelers with kids. Let us know if you have other experiences. I'd love for you to have one of you guys on here, or hit us up at nuance_beauty on Instagram.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you aren't already following us, please follow us on your Spotify or Apple Podcast account. And look us up on Instagram at nuance_beauty. Until next week.